Welcome back, guys, to Benny and the Guest. Second time we're doing this. We're doing part two here with, once again, Eddie Lake, the legend. Thanks, Dad, for having me again.
Thank you.
We'll just kind of jump right back. We were starting talking about, your life with Tony as that newborn child. Mom was still working up in St. Louis or near it, and then you were doing dogs and stuff. What your next career at that point, because this is where a lot of all my friends and stuff, we talk about a lot, all your jobs and stuff, that like you had these like very entrepreneurial jobs. You kind of jumped into something new. What was that?
Well, um, so I tried a little bit of everything. When we first were married, I worked. I painted. A buddy of mine ran a paint company for a guy, and he hired me, and I painted for a while, and then different things happened, and we said we were going to come to the farm, and when we showed up here, I didn't really have a way to make any money, so I cut charcoal wood. I would cut trees down and load them in the back of the truck and take them to the charcoal kilns that were just outside of town, and they would pay me for a load of wood.
Oh, okay. Over in the one in Bell and stuff.
No, this was right here in Vienna. It
Oh,
was
okay.
actually out there by where the dope plant is right now, the
Oh,
marijuana plant.
yeah, by the Eagles Club.
Yeah. So
Did when you moved out here, that's when we had the trailer up there, right?
yeah,
Up at the other
well,
spot.
we moved. I moved your mother into the farmhouse, and it had cold water. So luckily, I had a cousin who offered me a under the cabinet small hot water heater that was 110. So I wired it and got your mom hot water in the kitchen. Woohoo!
Oh, okay.
We actually got hot water, but we still only had outside plumbing. We are an outhouse.
Yeah.
So your mom got pregnant with you somehow, and I'm pretty sure I know, but anyway, after 4 children, you know that pregnant women have to use the restroom a lot,
Yeah.
and she was not happy that we didn't have a bathroom, so I went to the bank and talked to them, and they said find a modular home if you want one, or a trailer, and move it in there and send us a bill. And I did, and we got a trailer, single wide, and we had a pretty happy life there for a little bit. We've always had a happy life, but what happened was I was looking for more money and coming up with different jobs. I sold produce for a long time, and then I came up with an idea called Farmer Ed's Pet of the Month, because children in St. Louis don't get to see the farm animals like people out here do.
Mm-hmm.
So I invented Farmer Ed's Pet of the Month,
Yeah.
and I sold it to all the big preschool companies, KinderCare, La Petite, all of them, and I was very successful at it.
So you would just travel with those animals to all the little schools around that area.
Yeah,
Like-
each month I take a different animal, hence the name Pet of the Month.
Mm.
And then I would give coloring sheets to the kids and teach them about a boy is called this, and a female is called, a mom is called this, and the babies are called this. And I would let them pet the animal and talk to them about what they ate, talk to them how they lived, and actually described what we did with them. With pigs, we talked about, that's where we get our bacon from, and chickens, everybody likes fried chicken. So the kids thought that was funny, but it was also a learning lesson, and it was very, very, very successful. Probably quit that for only one reason, and I just don't talk about it a lot, but I got Lyme disease from a tick,
Oh, okay.
and it caused me to. The drive became very painful. I would drive halfway there, sometimes have to take a nap, and then halfway home and have to take a nap, and it was something that I wasn't proud of, and there was a girl up there that had a pony business, and she liked the idea, so we made a deal, and she ended up being Farmer
From
Red.
Red, yeah.
But and then that that turned into something. I had saved some money and talked to a couple of friends of mine, actually my namesake and my godfather, and talked to him about getting a business together, and we started raising whitetail deer.
Yeah, I guess that's where I remember most of my stuff is when the farm kicked in, because I think that's probably one of the not craziest, I guess, because it's done. People just don't really know about it, but it's across the Midwest, deer farms. But you tell people the story, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" So I think people from the last one, if you listen to the last episode, you can kind of understand why he was so into whitetail deer, but he also at that point understood the market for it. Could you just explain to everyone basically what you're trying to do with that farm, basically? Because I think other places they think of it as like bulls or like selling it for hunting or something, but that really wasn't your case.
Yeah, no, the idea of raising big animals to put on a game farm for someone to shoot was not my cup of tea at all. I hunt wild deer, 100% unfenced, and the idea of selling to a farm that put them in there, it's okay for some people, it's just not okay for me. That wasn't my gig. My gig was, as funny as it may sound, I sold the urine. And many hunters all over the United States, hundreds of thousands of them, possibly millions, take urine, put it on a rag and drag it, hang it from trees. And I collected doe urine, I collected buck urine, and I collected doe and heat urine. And that business became very successful.
Can you also, I always want, this is like a personal one, but how did you guys make that shed that you collected it in? Like, did you just make the floor concave and stuff? Was that what it was? Or was it like...
No, actually it was a flat floor, but it did kind of, it was like a shower. Each stall was like a shower, so it did go to the center a little bit, a little gravity, and then it had a drain, and the drain went straight down and then out the back to a
bucket.
trough.
Yeah.
And you would hang the pipes on the buckets on the pipe, and as the urine was drained down the drain, we learned a lot. Number one, fresh concrete can absorb a lot of urine before you get any, because it took a little while for it to absorb in and became to the point where it was not contaminated. And then the other thing was that when you first start, of course, you don't know. I didn't know nothing about how to keep it clean. And if you leave them in there for 3 hours, whatever urine you get is going to be crystal clear. But if you leave them in there 3 hours and 15 minutes, they will trample all their feces and contaminate their urine. And not that it won't work, but it won't work as well. And we found that out, and we sold our urine all over the United States. I would drive to sporting goods stores, archery stores, feed stores, and get the names and numbers out of the phone book and show them what I had, ask them if they were interested, take their order, and deliver the product myself. And
I think that's just like, that's so cool, but it's like it's not done anymore that way. I mean, it can be done, but people mostly choose not to, because this is what, late 90s, like somewhere around there? Yeah. So like you're not using internet to look up this stuff. It's mostly, especially out here, you're not using internet. It's just like you're figuring it out. You've heard word of it or calling people that have done it, but mostly word of mouth and you figuring it out. And then secondly, like traveling across the U.S., just like imagine people doing that now. Like there's no point for it because of email, social media and stuff like that. It's always, I think that's the hard part, is especially being raised by you guys and stuff. you always want to put a name to the face. You want to have that social interaction, talk, but like people don't do that no more. It's all social connection or social media connection, which is just crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would say that you're probably 95% right, but I will tell you that there are some 5% of the businesses still are old school and send sales reps out. And those sales reps are the face behind the product, and they make a personal relationship with the people that own those businesses. And you take them to lunch or you have a good conversation, and they look forward to seeing you the next time. And the secret to selling anything is if the person likes you, they will buy from you. If they do not like you, they won't buy anything from you. And you could have the cheapest, best product out there on the market. Number one, I never was the cheapest, and I told my customers that. But I felt like I had a quality product, and I never had to run another person's product down in order to sell mine. When you get to a point where you have to run somebody else's product down, then you're number one, you don't have much of a product, and number two, you're not much of a salesman or a person.
Absolutely. I mean, that can be applied to, any type of job or even like politics. When people talk about it, a lot of people want to bash another person, but really you should just be hyping your own thing up. That way you should be running on the credit of yourself, not the discredit of others.
Absolutely, 150% on that, because I'll tell you what, you're only as good as the person you are, and if people know that they can trust you and believe in you, they will buy from you, or they will trust you, and you'll go a long ways. And if they can't trust you, you'll never make it. You're never going to be you're never going to amount to anything. And so that's I mean, I'm not perfect. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I am, but I just am a firm believer. You got to be a person that does what he says, and if you are that kind of person, that you'll always have good customers.
Mm-hmm. So you do that for a while. It ran pretty smooth, right? As you had me and Brett and everybody, it was a pretty solid business for a couple of years, right? Or for a while, actually.
Yeah.
Probably a decade, right?
Yeah, I raised deer for almost 14 years.
Oh, yeah.
And excuse me. Anyway, there was a scare in wild herd in Missouri called CWD, and
that was back then.
And they blamed it on farm deer.
Mm-hmm.
Said that by feeding them in a pen that they were getting it, and other deer were coming up and nosing those deer in the fence. And anyway,
mm-hmm.
they wanted to get rid of those kind of farmers, deer farmers. And so I could see the writing on the wall. The Outdoor Channel was just coming into play, and they were advertising all the big names. So we got rid of our deer and started looking for something else, and that's when I came across Sportsman and Western decals.
Wasn't that also, I don't know, it had to be close to, maybe it was a little later, but 9/11. I remember those decals selling like crazy, which I'm not trying to say we profited off 9/11 because that was the government, but there was like this big flourish of piss on Bin Laden and courtesy of the red, white, blue, all that shit. It seemed like it was like a big selling point,
Oh yeah, I made a lot of those patriotic decals. Certain areas I just sold in Oklahoma, and found, which I didn't know, that OSU and OU were two college teams in Oklahoma that are huge football teams out there because they have no pro team. So you could sell those decals, mm-hmm. and I did, and I made a really good amount of money there. And then LSU, Louisiana State, Louisiana's another state that doesn't have, well, they do. I mean, at the time they really didn't
That's
the
crazy.
college
Back
team.
then, yeah, they weren't that. LSU wasn't that big. OSU
Well,
probably was.
they-
OU wasn't.
One year OSU and OU played against each other, and the next year it was LSU and I believe OSU played against each other. And every time they played against each other like that, I made decals. When the Cardinals went to the Super Bowl, or I'm sorry, the World Series,
Oh yeah.
I always would do a lot of go cards. I sold lots and lots of decals, and I loved all those jobs. Are were the kind where I personally went in and talked to the dealers, and the relationship that I built up with customers. I just had a blast. I mean, it was
Well,
just
you're a
my cup of
salesman.
tea.
At the end of the day, whether you're a trucker now, you're a salesman through and through because you can socialize with people. What you did that, but then I remember you also kind of brought in a new category of making shirts and stuff, right? Was that with it or was that separate or?
Well, it was. I only did decals for quite a while, and I was. It was very profitable, and we were doing real well. And I was over in Indiana, and I had picked up a paper called a Thrifty Nickel, and the lady was selling a complete system down in southern Illinois, real far, right? Not very far out of Paducah in Illinois, and Paducah, Kentucky, and she was like 35 miles from Paducah, and I called her on the phone and I said, "What's the situation?" She said her husband had died, and he was the one that started the business, and then she had 2 children, and both of them were in trouble a lot, and weren't responsible enough to take care of the business, and she couldn't handle it by herself. And I said, "Could I come take a look at the stuff?" And she said yes. So I drove from Indiana. When I got done selling all the decals I had, which wasn't very hard back then, I would leave out with what I called sets.
Oh yeah, I remember the sets. It was
Yeah.
because you had the boards, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
I
can
had-
explain it. Yeah. You
Yeah,
can explain it.
I had display boards, and then each board had usually 10 decals, and then each decal on there, I would supply them with 10, and each so that was 100 decals, and they cost them 2, and they sold them for 5. So, and then most every place bought at least 2 boards, and sometimes Western, or what, not just Western, but feed stores especially, would buy the hunting and the Western. And sometimes I would sell 4 or 6 boards at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold quite a few boards, had a pocket full of money, was headed home, asked her if I could come see it, went there, called your mom, told her that I needed to make some arrangements because I just bought a screen printing business. And
I'll never forget, Dad. I remember when we went down to get it because I think I went with you and Justin, or was it Justin, or was it? I thought it was.
Jim Solinsky
Oh, okay.
went with us.
I
And he
remember
helped
it was
us.
a long ass drive, and we got down there, and it took like a minute because I don't know what it was, but it took the lady a minute for us to get in the building or something.
Yeah, we had to
and
go
we had
track
to
her
break
down.
it, and then we had to break it down.
Yeah.
because we didn't realize how big it was, and then you got it on the trailer.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
In that
and
podunk ass town, there was like
Well,
nothing there except for a restaurant. That was
yeah,
it.
that was it.
Yeah.
She had an old storefront that her and her husband had owned for years, and so anyway, I started. Went to 2 different. I went to a school that lasted for 3 days, and they didn't teach me anything. And then I went to another place, and an individual in the business, and I asked him if I could stay there for a couple of days. Told him I'd pay him. He said he didn't want anything. He just wanted me to learn, and he was a great guy. I can't remember his name, but he's out on Page Avenue in St. Louis. Fantastic gentleman, helped me out immensely in the business, and taught me more in 2 days than I had paid for nothing than the other place, the supply house that had a class on that was supposed to teach you how to do it, and it was their name brand, their equipment. But anyway, long story short, I taught it, I got it down, and I sold lots and lots and lots of
It
shirts.
it's also crazy because with that type of business, with the decals, with all the stuff, like there were ways back then to learn, but you had to like really network and like reach out, be like, hey, I need help learning this, and they would be like, we offer this class or whatever, or I know a person in this. You look this up in the white pages of Kansas City and you'll find it. Or like with the shirts and stuff, I think the hardest part now, or the easiest part now, people that want shirts, they can order them online, custom designed and everything. So it kind of takes away from that personal venture. But like, even if you want to do it as a personal venture, there's YouTube videos, there's classes for like $10 a month. You know, you can look up all this stuff, and like that's so crazy that you had to learn it all by yourself. You know, by not outsourcing, but resourcing it. Like that's probably hard to a lot of kids nowadays. I'm not saying it's easy to me. I find that hard too. When I'm like today, I was telling you about my toilet. My toilet messes up, and I have to Google. Okay, what's the best tools for this? Like I knew there was some, but okay, I'll do this, this, and that. You know, but back in the day, I would have either had to call you, and if you don't answer, I wait, or I have to drive somewhere, or
No,
you know,
you're absolutely right, and we
analog. You know.
we talk about this all the time. YouTube is a savior for so many things.
Oh yeah.
Um, if you buy a car today and water pump goes out, everybody takes it to the dealer. Nobody fools with it. But if you want to fix it and you don't know much about cars, you can YouTube it, and 9 times out of 10, there's enough information. If you've got a little bit of sense, you can follow the directions of the guy who shows you, and you can fix your own car.
Just a little patience, yeah.
Yeah, you got to have a little patience. You got you got to have a lot of patience when you're working. No matter what you're doing, when it comes to fixing things, repairing things, you got to have patience. And I wasn't born with a lot of patience.
It's crazy. No, so you do all this stuff. I just want to point out to like the listeners, you know, before we progress any further, you know, these jobs are like the modern, I would say like the 80s to really the early 2010s. That was kind of the American dream. Was my dad was living it. Was like these jobs that, number one, not a lot of people wanted, but number two, like he was getting after it and learning it and trying to sell across the United States, which is what most entrepreneurs and like creators such as myself, right? I'm starting a little thing, but there's like podcasters and stuff that all they do is try to market with like not knowing anything about it. All they do is outsource it and stuff. And I really kind of hate that. Like I love the whole, I'm going to make my own stuff and push it out. I'm going to learn how to do this so I become a master at it. Because like now, if I ask anyone about a deer question, I would never think twice about asking anyone about deer decals, traveling routes across the Midwest, T-shirt designs. Like the list goes on and on with you, you know. So that's just, I think your friends know too. Your wealth of knowledge by pure desire to be progressive is like there's no one matching that right now.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do, because the funny thing was, one time your grandmother, I was watching a show on tigers, and it was a life about tigers, and showed their whole life, and from the time they were born till the time they died, you know, and all the everything about them. And that TV show didn't interest her in the least, and she looked at me one day and she said, "Eddie, why are you watching this TV show about the life of a lion? We don't even have lions in the United States." And I said, "I just want to learn. I want to learn as much as I can about as many different things as I can." And she goes, "I don't know. I just don't get it." Well, it's not for everybody. I would like to learn something. My grandmother taught me a long time ago, if you don't learn something every day, you're going the opposite direction, and I don't want to go the opposite direction. So you try to learn something new every day. And I'll tell you, this is probably going to come off as a little corny, but I learned probably more now by my 3 kids than I learned from anybody else. They teach me when they say something I don't know, I ask them and they teach me, and they learn me on the subject, and I'm like, and then they, just like you, I have 2 other kids that quite often call me and they say, hey, I need help with this, or I need help with that, or my son wants to go fishing, or my other son wants to go hunting. And, well, what should I do about this, or what should I do about that? And I give them as much information as I know. But it's amazing what my kids know about things that I will. this new age of communication and all that is we're doing a podcast. I never in my life thought I would be on the end of a microphone at a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Information now is so vast. I feel like the what is it, the output of the world for information is vast, but the input is a little lower, I feel like, because people just don't like research and stuff. People don't have the patience for it, and we're probably tuned to that from Facebook, TikTok, like TV shows. Like you can only watch you can watch a movie. I was telling Vince about this. It's hard to watch long movies now. I watched Deer Hunter. It's 3 hours long, and I'm like, how the hell did people sit through a cinema feature like this? 3 hours. But
well, I can tell you how I did it, and your mom could tell you, and so could a couple other gals I used to take to movies. They would.
That is right around your time too. It was 1979 it was made.
Yeah, I went and seen that movie at the drive-in. I went and seen Apocalypse Now at the drive-in.
You saw those at the drive-in?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god!
And I can tell you,
that's a lot of.
I tell you what
shit.
I tell you what I did for both of them the first time. I slept. Yeah. I always worked, so I come home on a Friday, and I'll never forget this. I was dating a girl named Lisa Moss, and very nice gal in North Florissant, and she said, "You want to go to the movies?" I said, "Yeah, that sounds good." So we were looking at the movies on we were looking at the paper and trying to find a good movie, and everybody was talking about Apocalypse Now. And I said, "We're going." And so we go to the drive. My dad said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to St. Ann Forest Green." And so we go to St. Ann Forest Green, and we drive. I got a pickup truck, so pickup trucks were only allowed on the back 2 rows. So I back up, and I'm on the back row. I get there early. Imagine that. Yeah. And then we might or might not have had a couple of beers, and we're starting to watch the cartoons or whatever it was playing before the movie. Mm-hmm. And she looks over at my left and goes, "Is that your dad and mom coming in?" And my mom and dad were driving a pickup truck, and they were right in front of me. And I don't know how far down they went. I didn't really pay any attention.
And they came to watch Apocalypse Now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh Jesus Christ.
Well, what you got to realize is my dad was in his 30s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Late 30s, but he was in his 30s, and or middle 30s. And so that was right in his, ball field. And it was kind of a cool movie, but the sad part of it is the first time I went and seen it, I actually went and seen it 3 times, and I never did see the whole thing at one time.
Because you're just tired from work and stuff.
Always tired. Yeah.
I did that with Danielle when we first started dating. It was like into it, but I love movies, So I was like, "You want to go see a movie?" Sure. We went to like 3 movies. I kept falling asleep every damn time. She'd nudge me. Let's just go somewhere. No, I'm watching the movie. Fall right back asleep. Ben, get up. I'm like, no, I'm watching it. She goes, "What happened?" I don't know. The guy did this. It'd been half an hour into the movie, so.
Oh yeah.
I get it.
Oh no, I did.
That's probably your 20s. Is just you're tired you work your ass off.
I had 2 jobs at a time. I met your mother, and we would go to. I fell asleep. I fell asleep at a Cardinal baseball game on her.
Well, that's an easy one to fall asleep on. Baseball is tiring.
And then I fell asleep at the comedy show, at a comedy show in Westport.
Mm.
And
People laughing around you and you're just sleeping?
Luckily, I was in the back because if he'd have caught
Oh,
that
yeah, he
comedian
roasted
would have come,
you,
he'd say,
yeah.
Oh, he'd have burned my ass, you know.
Yeah. Damn.
I'm very lucky. I mean, her cousin and his wife was with us. She was his girlfriend at the time, and they luckily he didn't give me too much trouble because I'd known him longer than I'd known your mother. So it was her cousin, but I'd known him a long time.
Mm-hmm. You so back back a little bit, but so you doing all these jobs, it's going good. Did it feel like it was going good most of the time, or was it ups and downs? Because before we do this, I'm not trying to I don't want people to think I'm trying to trap my dad. I ask that because I've had my own ups and downs, as well as my entire family, my friends, my work colleagues. I know everybody has it, so I'm just wondering if you did experience that in jobs that you truly did, you enjoyed and stuff, and you were active. Was it ups and downs? Was it rough? And you're just like, fuck, I don't, how'd it work?
So here's a funny thing about that. When I was doing Farmer Ed, I had enough schools that it was a consistent paycheck every week. I never had to worry. I could have kept that going for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did switch to deer lure, I was knocking on doors, and I always said this with deer lure and decals. You're handing them a box of decals that's about 6 inches by 10 or 12 inches with a lid on it, and two plastic boards, Coroplast boards, and you ask them for $200 or $240, and it was a complete stranger. You never met him 5 minutes ago.
That's
you
a hard
didn't
pitch.
Know the guy.
Yeah.
So I said this 100 times. I would call your mom, and I had these. My uncle had been a salesman in his second career. He was military, first career, second career as a salesman, and he gave me boxes of motivational tapes. He was an insurance salesman, but sales is sales. And so when I would go out and have a bad day, which a bad day was one sale, which most people today would think $200, but you had to take your gas and the material cost and the amount of time you put in. And so, yeah, it was up and down, and it wasn't consistent. And when your life isn't consistent, there's worry, and it's tough.
I think that's the hardest part is inconsistency in your career field makes you paranoid, as well as I don't know if it's a failure, but you feel like you're not getting through to your or I guess you're not fulfilling your roles. That's what it is. You're not fulfilling the roles as what you are, because me and you as dads, it's provide for the family and ensure they're safe. And if you're not doing that, or you feel like you're on the brink of it, man, you are in a shitstorm.
You beat yourself up. You beat yourself up mentally. You beat yourself up.
I hate that part. But you hate it. You sit in your bed, or you wake up and you beat yourself up, and you go, what the fuck? I got to get this together. But then you're like, every dad in America, from Bernie Madoff to me to Joe Rogan to whoever, are probably waking up and saying, I want to do good for my kids. So
when you wake up in San Antonio, Texas, or some off-the-wall town in Texas, and you're by yourself, and you feel like you should have sold 3 accounts and you only sold 1, you call your wife, and she looks at you and just says, calm down. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. You just got to keep trying. Then you listen to motivational tapes. You go to sleep. The next morning, you get up and do it all over again. And the honest truth is, sometimes it's great, which I did. I had some great turnarounds, and then sometimes you don't have those great turnarounds, and you you question yourself. Or worse yet, you question yourself as a salesman, and then you question yourself as a husband. Or why don't I just go get a job like everybody says? Why don't I go get a real job? 100 people ask me, why don't you go get a real job? Well, that wasn't what I loved.
Yeah.
I was doing what I loved.
But don't you find that too? I find maybe I don't know. You probably saw it too with your friends. Who you marry is like that rock to you. Whether mom or Danielle or even Megan and Tony to Galen, like those are just the immediate examples. But I know I know there's obviously other ones that are on the rocks and stuff. But you find those and you're like, they're there for you till the end. Like that's what keeps me going, not myself. Myself keeps me going a bit of the time, but those other times, it's my wife.
If you don't have a wife that will hang with you when the times are bad, you first of all, you should have known that before, because it's very obvious the kind of people that you have to. Well, of course, you live by the golden rule. You got to treat them the way you want to be treated. But the thing is you. I don't know the best way to put this. Well, first time I've been lost of words, but I can tell you this: without my wife, and a friend of mine told me one time she's an across the prairie woman. If anybody knows about history, and they will know that people left St. Louis and went to California, and most of the time they were in wagons and they had to walk half of it because the horses couldn't pull everything they wanted them to take with them. So the people had to get out and walk. And if you ever been out west and you drive across the Mojave Desert, there's nothing. And, you drive across it in 3 hours, but in a wagon it took 3 days. And that's the kind of wife you have to have when you're in business for yourself, because if you don't, you're never going to succeed, because it's hard enough to fight the battles out on the road, but if you don't have a wife that will support you, then you have nothing.
No, for sure. We're gonna take a little break after that, guys. We'll be back with a little more about Ed Lake here in a minute. Hey guys, got another person to tell you about up in Columbia, Missouri. When you ride around in your car, that sun, especially out here in Missouri, it can get to be daunting. That heat on your seats, whether it's cloth or leather, gets pretty dang hot. So you kind of want someplace that'll get your tinting done, as well as your businesses and stuff. You don't want that sun glaring in while you're trying to work. Okay, and that's where you go to Sun Stoppers. Eric Vierhoff is the owner of that. It's located at 1313 Grand Avenue, Suite B in Columbia, Missouri, and they're open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Okay, they do everything. Auto, home, and commercial window tinting, even ceramic coating and detailing. They also offer discounts for military, EMS, firefighters, nurses, doctors, and teachers. Very supportive business out there that's going to give you the best tint work for all your homework, as well as your cars, as well as outstanding detail work. So hit them up and get it done. Hey guys, I'm here to tell you about another local business. It's near and dear to my heart, actually. Lakes Homestead Goods. It's my wife's business, actually. She's out there making everything from, mostly bread, but she's also getting into butter and freshly made soap. When you guys are looking at buying products, all this stuff on the market now, it has a lot of 20,000 ingredients in it, stuff that might be bad for you. All her stuff is pretty natural, has about 5 ingredients to what it's made for. It's real healthy and good for you, and it tastes amazing. Her banana bread, the cinnamon raisin bread with her cinnamon or the cinnamon butter, much like Texas Roadhouse. You know what I'm saying? It's amazing. Her orders go through Lakes Homestead Goods on the Facebook page, or you can contact her at 417-365-4993. Get yourself an order and have a nice, tasty loaf of bread for all your meals, as well as any other type of, if you want detergents, homemade butter, stuff like that. She's getting more recipes as it goes. Check out the Facebook page. You'll see what all she's offering. It's great, and it's fairly priced. We're back, guys. My dad was just, we're talking about a lot of shit right now. It's not intense. It's just a lot of stuff, and I think for those looking at this picture, my dad, which I'll put his age out there, he's 60, right? A 60-year lifespan, so that's 1963 till now. You have to look at, like, the gap of life, how that worked. So, we talked about your job, but not all your jobs, but some of them, right? And we get to this point, and I can't stress enough to people how important it was to me and to, I think, other kids out there with their dads when they were out there on the road all the time. I think a lot of people resent their parents for not being there, which I did myself, right? At some points I resented it, but you learn over time they're out there because they are providing for you. So I want to point that out to any listeners that are, maybe 18 or under, really, or probably 22 or under, that really don't understand that. Your parents that weren't there for you were, 80% of the time it was because they were working their ass off for you.
Well, it's funny you say that, because if I say to you, you always have questions for your podcast people. I got a question for you, and it'll answer some of that. What would you say my favorite song is of all time?
Yours, I want to say Hotel California, but I don't think it. But the fucking one about the dad and the son.
Cats in the Cradle.
Cats in the Cradle. Harry Nilsson, right?
Harry Chapin.
Harry Chapin. God damn it. Okay, yeah.
Harry
Cats in
Chapin.
the Cradle, Silver Spoon, Little Boy Blue, Man Moon. Yeah.
So, the whole song's about a dad that couldn't find time for his kid.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Because he was working too much. And then when his dad got time, which is happening to me now,
Yeah.
the sons don't have time for him because they have a life that they're living. It really is the truth, and it's life. And as bad as you would like things to be different, if you want to provide for your family, there are going to be times when you aren't going to be able to be there for that basketball game.
Oh yeah.
Or for that for the speech meet, or for the track meet. There were 100 times that I wish I would have went and didn't or couldn't.
Oh, Dad, you know me already. I mean, it's super easy to miss everything. I'm not saying it's like right. I'm saying from how our lives were, you can't hate yourself for missing these events. You can be upset. It's okay to be upset, but you can't hate yourself for missing what was to your kids important, but what to you was I'm putting bread on the table, but you can't even see that. My kid, my kids are like that too, and I don't want to dive into that right now, but I understand completely that it's so fucking hard to understand that, but I will promise you this with you, as you have an open relationship with your kids, as other parents do with theirs, if they can explain that when they're usually kids understand it about in their 20s or early 20s, like not 18, 19, 20, but after that progression, they truly start to understand, okay, they were probably working their ass off just trying to provide,
Right, right. And the funny thing is that I have a great relationship with all three of my kids. They want to come see me. They want to come see their mom. We do barbecues. We have fish fries. We have pool time with the kids, grandkids. Yeah. There are people out there that don't spend that time with their loved ones. And I can tell you this, that when I was young, I had faults. I mean, I still have faults. I got lots of them. But one of them was, and I'm just going to tell you, I was selfish. I was a coon hunter first, deer hunter next, and those came before work. Those came before kids. Those came before anything. I hunted, and I fished, and I coon hunted, and sometimes I'd coon hunt all night and have to leave the next morning, and I'd drive 300 miles and have to pull over and go to sleep for a little bit because I'd stayed out too late. And that same night, my son had something at school, and I couldn't make it because I was loading up the dogs, we just had the fair here in town, Labor Day weekend. But that's also the weekend of what we call Autumn Oaks every year. And I went to it many times.
I remember the pictures.
Yeah.
I remember pictures. But, Dad, don't you... Yeah. We'll get off this, guys. I'm going to get off this because, I think you're being so hard on yourself, but, there's not a dad in this town that thinks you're a bad dad, and there's not, my dad, my best friends, shout out Ryan and Vince. I guarantee will say you were like a second dad to them,
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them.
But I mean, they when you disciplined me or anything, and they heard it, they said anything about it, they understood we all fucked up. Not just me, but we all fucked up. So like, never underestimate yourself to where you think you are not doing your job, because you did a great job as a father. Okay, I want to get off of it. I know we're getting down not a rabbit hole, but I know we're going somewhere we don't want to go.
Right,
I want to keep it positive. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did T-shirts. We did all this stuff, and what happened there at the end of T-shirts and decals?
Well, so.
Also, I'm sorry, Dad. God damn it! I always forget this. People talk about computers too. I swear to God, I did not have fast internet in my house until when I was 20.
Right.
20 or 21. Okay, so I went to college and then came back and we had internet, that was fast, but Wi-Fi, I guess you'd say Wi-Fi. We had it before, but it was shitty. Dial up, and if you got a phone call, you're fucked. So, we had all that going on. Meanwhile, I get to college, and there's Netflix, there's Hulu, there's all this shit, and I come home, and you realize there's like this. But, no, but I really can't emphasize enough that you guys were just crushing it out there with 26 states of selling not only deer urine, but decals and stuff, and T-shirts eventually in some of those states, and a lot of across Missouri, but with no internet presence. Okay, what went down at that point?
So anyway, I mean, when I think about all of the craziness that has changed, when I met your, well, not met, when we first moved here, our telephone was a party line. You had to pick up the phone and make
Oh,
sure.
really?
Yes, yes. I moved your mom down here, and we still were on a party line with two other people.
It
A party line.
this
Can
is
you
in the
imagine?
'90s. This is the '90s, though.
This
I
was
mean, this
just
is
the
crazy.
it was the early '90s.
Yeah, but
It
I mean,
was
like, so was this in the trailer or was this in the farmhouse?
both.
So for people, I guess, I don't know if I explained it very well. I don't know if I explained the farmhouse. Our farmhouse is about 110 years old, somewhere around there. It was bought in a Sears and Roebuck catalog. They built that thing out here. It was built on stones as a foundation instead of a concrete foundation. There's literally, you look under there's no markers anymore. I'm pretty sure you can look under. It's just giant stones. I don't even know where they found those stones at, but it was a claps or what's it called, a clapboard house.
Clapboard.
It was a clapboard house, 2-story, 1, 2, 3, 4. Technically 4 rooms, one no bath, but
Four
Dad.
no, 4 bedrooms, no bath, no closets. There was no closets, and
That was mom.
no.
Mom said that, not any of us.
running water was cold. And when I first got here with her, and outside John, and she put up with it until she got pregnant with you, and then we moved, and she just said that when we moved up there, we did get a line that was not a party line, but that was probably '93.
Okay.
But so imagine that in 1990 in Vienna, Missouri, we still had party lines. We didn't have any cell line. So I had a couple other little jobs that I was selling stuff, and I would leave all day, and she would expect me home at 5.
I think New York had that too, though, because they were so populated. They had party lines like that. I get it. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it was the first lines. They just didn't have enough line or didn't have enough capability to give out those numbers. So now, it's we don't. If you take our electricity went out for 5 or 6 hours the other night, and we couldn't use our phones because the internet was down. It was very difficult. We could text, but that was about it. If today you would lose your cell phone service for a month, people would lose their minds.
I guess. I'll say yeah. I don't know why I'm trying to argue this.
Do you know my phone number?
Yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, 573-202 4336.
Yeah, that's your mother's.
Shit. No, it's close though. 4553. What is it? 202 202 what? What? 8836. Ah, shit. Who's 45? Oh, that's Ryan.
But-
Sorry, I remember Ryan's phone number, not Mom's.
But I can tell you this.
But I know my wife's phone number. And I used to know yours. I used to know Grandma and Grandpa. I know their landline because I know
Mine.
they still have it. I know that.
Man, so
I know your guys' landline if you had one still. You should have kept it. You should have got rid of your phones and just kept a landline.
Don Dewing's number was 739-8822.
422-9939.
My mom and dad's was
6067. What?
8694.
6067.
No, I'm talking about in St. Louis. So when I was a
and-
kid,
yeah.
you knew everybody's phone number. You had. It
I
in your
did too,
head.
Dad. No, I think that's where people get it lost because Joe Rogan was talking about it too, how he thought he was the last generation that was ever going to do it. Me, Ryan, Vince, we all talk about that, how we used to know everybody's cell phone or it wasn't their cell phone, it was their house phone. I used to call Caitlin Safrick on the landline, like, can I talk to Caitlin, please? And I would have to wait. I remember all those, like Ryan too, Vince too. All these numbers, and I would learn girls' numbers too. It stopped right when I was in high school, but I remember it, So I get what you're saying, though. I can't imagine learning all the numbers you guys learn and them running through your head, Like that's hard. Like, especially when you were traveling, you probably had to write it all down, right? In a ledger or whatever.
Right, absolutely. And use payphones. Put, put quarters, put dimes.
Yeah.
And now,
I was the first class in basic training that didn't use landlines.
really.
They used to, they took our phones away, but then I got them later. It used to be back in the day, it kind of was nicer. You would get a landline call every Sunday. You get like 5 minutes on the phone and then switch out. But people don't do that no more. I guess people don't want to buy the calling cards.
Right.
I'm sure they don't do it anymore, but
right.
Yeah, that was 2015.
I bought 100 calling cards.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
You were receiving a call from.
Well, and I can tell you, I mean, there's been a lot of things, when you guys were growing up. So all those jobs I had, I did okay, but there was months where they were very, very good, and then there were weeks or months where they weren't so good, and it's the inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if we're gonna stay kind of in the genre of work, what happened was you were gone. You had made the decision to go into the military, so you were gone.
Yeah.
Tony had married Galen, which I couldn't ask for a finer son.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, he's great dad. And so she was gone. And then there's Ben, Brett. And then Brett, a little different deal. He had a girlfriend that he was very attached to, and he would spend a lot of time at her place. And I just got to looking, and I have a cousin that drove a truck and hauled cars. And he said something to me one weekend, and I just kind of let it go in one ear and out the other. He said, Eddie, one thing about hauling cars or a commercial driver's license, if you go get one, you're never too old. And if you go get one, you'll always have a job. There's always going to be a need for truck drivers.
Yeah.
So shirts were doing okay, and as a matter of fact, I had an order, but I was just kind of not. It wasn't really pulling the numbers that I wanted it to pull.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody knows me, when it comes to work, I'm probably my worst critic. And anyway, so I took and start looking up getting a commercial driver's license, and I was told your mother, I said, I'm gonna look for a job, something steady. And she goes, you're not gonna be able to work for nobody. And I found a job putting up exhibits all over the United States.
Oh yeah.
And I loved it. I loved it. But while I was doing it, just like your buddy Ryan, and just like Fred, there was an alternative motive in the back of my head. I'm going to work this job until I can get a commercial driver's license. And if they need me here, I'll stay there. And if not, I'm going to haul cars, because that's what my cousin did. That's what his dad did. And I thought, you know what? That's it. It was a pretty good living.
Yeah.
So I'm filling out some paperwork, and your mom asked me what I was doing. I told her I was going to filling out a resume, and she thought I was crazy. And
this is when mom was driving a bus at that point, or no?
Yeah, mom's been driving a bus. Actually, the first house that the second house we moved into, she drove school bus. So we lived in New Malley, and she drove for St. Charles School District.
I just want to tell her, Mom, I probably can't even hear this on the podcast. Do you remember when we lived in Warrensburg and we had to ride the bus over at Aunt Mary Ellen's?
Warrenton.
I said
Warrensburg. You said Warrenton.
Oh, Warrensburg, Warrenton. But we had to ride on Aunt Mary Ellen's, yeah. You know, I met a private that her brother went there the same time I did. I was like, I hated that shit. I hope you know I hate it. Huh? Was that? I don't. I just remember we had to wake up early as shit and go over to Aunt Maryland's, and it was a nightmare. I hated that.
Yeah. Well,
But
we
no,
ended
I
up- and
digress.
that's why-
I digress. I'm not trying to bring
right.
up shit. I was just shitting on Mom.
No.
That's all. She's not on here, so I can shit talk her.
Well, the funny thing was that we tried a couple different times to move from here, thinking that the grass was always
Yeah, I
gonna be
mean
greener,
that's
you know?
crazy too. Yeah, I was waiting, until you got done with that. But we had a couple moves. We had Warrenton, which I loved, which is very difficult, I guess, on that I probably didn't see.
Troy.
Troy, super fun for me. Again, a little odd, but I got to see so many movies. But
But we knew quite a few people up there, so you had you got to interact with some of their kids.
Not only that, the school was 10 times bigger than a school I'd ever been to. And the house we went to, I remember it was 2-3 bedroom? Was it 3 bedroom or 2? With a basement, right?
3.
3, and then it had the big old backyard, and me and Brett used to go to the skate park. I went to the movie theater, shit ton. I mean, it was insane coming from Vienna. You go out there and you're like, oh my gosh, I have access to everything. There's a Walmart there, the school, they had everything. We went what was it? I took PE there, which didn't even transfer. Thank you, Vienna. It was PE, and we took the Katy Trail bike ride. We did like a 5-mile bike ride. It was insane. Did that. Where else did we move? We didn't really move much where else.
St. Clair, and that was the only.
Not when I was a little baby or something, right? I don't remember any of it.
Yeah, St. Clair, you probably didn't. I think.
Huh?
That little boy.
How
next
old
door.
was I though?
I think 4.
Yeah, people don't remember consciousness at 4.
Well, we actually.
Was that in the trailer down in the bottom? I remember. Only thing I remember from that place was me and Grandpa setting up that RC car thing. You could not the RC car, but a little track, and it had a spin. That's the only thing I remember from that house.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a big old beautiful brown house up on the hill. Yeah, they looked down on us like we were peasants. Who lived up there? I don't even remember that.
Dakota.
I have a good friend, Dakota. He's coming on the podcast soon.
Yeah, that'd be.
Remember
cool.
Dakota, Mom? Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
Dad.
that's all right.
Okay.
That's all right.
Yes. So you get all this done, Dad. We digressed so much. You get all this done. You become a trucker. How was that transition? Because you're your own boss at this point, and now you're a trucker taking loads.
So this is funny. I went to a place that you could get your commercial driver's license in a day. So I went there, got my driver's license.
In a day?
Yeah, one day. Got my driver's license. I had already had my permit for 30 days. In Missouri, you got to have it for 30 days. I had it for 30 days, got my driver's license, and told your mom I was going to haul cars. So 2 jobs in 7 days. The first one, the truck broke down all the time, so I left. So a lot of people didn't think I would stay at anywhere because I'd always worked for myself.
Yeah.
So the first one I stayed about, I think, 3 days. The next one I stayed 4 or 5, and there were some questions being asked. Man, are you sure you're going to be able to work for somebody? I said, I just got to find the right person. And the third place wasn't it on the internet? They had an ad, and
Really? They had
Yeah.
one? SNS?
what was that ad that everybody was looking for jobs on? Used to buy and sell stuff there too, but you don't do it anymore. Anyway, Craigslist.
Oh my God.
They had an ad on Craigslist.
It's just for prostitutes now.
And I
People
call
don't
them.
use it.
Well, they were
Yeah.
prostitutes. They were trying to pimp
Right.
me. Anyway. So, long story short, I called him on the phone. He said, come in tomorrow. It was the 22nd of September. I went in, talked to him. They said, when would you start? And I said, I'll start
23rd,
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, the 23rd of September, I'll never forget because it's also my anniversary, my wedding anniversary.
Oh.
So I started working there.
Which is weird because it's 5 days after deer season starts.
Well, we had already made an agreement that I would be able
September.
to take
I'm
off
sorry.
September.
September. Never mind.
I'd be able to take off for deer season plus 5 more weeks in a year.
Yeah.
So I had, 5 total. And they agreed to that, and they said they won't be paid. We don't pay for vacations.
Yeah.
All we get paid for is your work. And I said, okay. So I worked there for a while, and I really liked it. The only thing was that we were hauling cars on a 3-car wedge trailer being pulled by a heavy-duty pickup truck. It was a F-350 or a Dodge 3500.
Yeah.
And
Oh, it was like, yeah, you were doing it small at that point. It was only a couple.
yeah, and talked to my bosses at the time. There was 2 of them. They were partners, and I said, "Hey guys, I got some bad news." And they said, "What?" And I said, "I'm going to have to leave you. I'm going to give you 3 weeks notice because I've been here 3 weeks." And your mom was like, yeah, "I knew you wouldn't stay," but I tried to explain that they just were putting too big of trucks on what we had. Everything was breaking. I wanted to be in a semi, and there were too many other jobs available, hauling cars and semis. So, long story short, again, my boss, who later bought his partner out, listened to me and talked to me a little bit more on the phone one night. And he said, "You really think I'm going to kill somebody with these trucks?" And I said, "Yep." And I said, I really think semi is the way to go. And he goes, "Man, I don't want to do that." But he said, "Give me a couple weeks and I'll see what comes up." So he found an old truck down in Florida, put me in it for 30 days, called the other employees in and told them that they needed a CDL because he was going to switch to semis. And today he has over 60 semis 9 years later. And he really is the best boss I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah, it seems like Sean is like the also part 2 of that kind of American dream where he took something from nothing and made it like this badass business. So I really appreciate him for doing that.
He is really the next podcast that needs to be talked to.
Yeah, I'll probably talk to him at some point. I really, he really interests me in like all his stuff. Do you, you've been doing this for a while now.
9 years.
Yeah. What, we'll just jump into this. What do you think is important? Because I have my opinions. Mom does too. What do you think your opinions are of why trucking is important for America?
So everything that we eat or put on our backs or put in our homes is one way or the other delivered to another place by a semi truck.
That's what Brett said too. It makes sense.
Everything.
It makes sense. It's all that, you know.
They make concrete blocks at a concrete block plant.
It's loaded
But
on a truck though.
They don't make concrete blocks everywhere, so they have to be shipped.
Yeah.
So they ship them on a semi. Cars have to be shipped on a semi. That's what I do. Grain, that the farmer gets all the grain, puts it up in silos, but when he gets ready to leave the farm, it has to go in a semi. So semis and semi drivers are a much needed asset for every type of food or anything that you can imagine for your person is hauled on a semi somewhere.
I completely agree. So we're gonna do a shot. I have a couple shotgun questions. I just want to throw out. It's not fast answer. It's just I won't be responding much.
Sure.
Okay. What do you think is the greatest thing about this country right now?
I think the greatest thing about this country is the same thing that I thought was the greatest thing about this country when I was 10 years old. And my dad tried to explain it to me. And it's also sometimes can be a little bit of the worst, but it is the best. You can be anything you want to be. You can do anything in this country that you want to do. Now, you can't, my uncle said this and it was so true. You can't do everything you want to do, but you can do anything you want to do. So, you can't do it all, but you can pick out one thing and you can do it.
I like that.
And that's what I love about this country, because in some other countries, you can't do things. Another thing is the freedom of movement. If I want to go to California tomorrow, me and your mom, we fill up the car, we throw some suitcases in, and we drive, or we fly. We don't need special permission. We don't need passports. We don't have to go across lines with guys with guns holding them saying, where are you going? We can go wherever we want to in the United States. The freedom of movement and the freedom to do whatever you want to do is, they say your freedom, people don't even, some people, I think young people take freedom for granted now. Freedom, this freedom was earned by the blood of many, 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 many men. And we all take it, and me included, all take it for granted sometimes.
Oh yeah. What do you think makes us the roughest right now? What's the hardest issue right now that you're finding?
One of the hardest things is that Republicans and Democrats have divided so bad that if you're a Republican and you tell somebody that's a Democrat, they may hate you and not even know you.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That they divide themselves amongst ideals and not the basis of the person, the merit of the person, you know.
The division of politics causing people to hate, not dislike, hate. You can dislike anything, but in reality, there are people in this community right here that I am best friends with. I mean, I love them. I would do anything for them. And they are on the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to politics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my politics to hurt my friendship. And I feel like that's where we really need to change.
Yeah. Would you ever, I don't know how to word this. There's people running for office right now. Would you ever think of going up against them? Would you ever want to?
Well, probably not, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I'm
not trying to.
No.
I'm the same way. I'm like, why would the fuck would I want to do that?
No.
But then you're like, why the fuck? Why are we letting them do this?
I think that's a good question, and I think that there was a time. Actually, there was a time that I wanted to be a politician. Mm-hmm. But we didn't go into it, and it might be a podcast for a whole nother type of podcast.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But they will take everything. They will go through your closet and pull every skeleton out of your closet.
Yeah.
And my closet's pretty full, my friend.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. At least you're honest about it. Most people aren't. Most people are going to be like, I'll figure it out. And then they may get past the state, but then they're going to, eventually they get caught. And then they're like, I didn't know. No.
No.
Dead, you're
No,
fine.
no,
90% of Americans have a skeleton there, and they, I think that's the problem too, is we're all so scared of scrutinization. I myself included, I'm so scared of anyone judging me on a grand scale that it's like, well, fuck, what do I do here? But
Well, I will tell you this: you can judge me, and lots of people do. It doesn't make me that part doesn't make me any difference. Judge me however you want, but I can tell you this: when the phone rings and you really need somebody, I will always be there.
yes,
Okay, I'll be there for you. I'll be there for my friends, and I'll probably be there for the guy that I didn't never even know. If somebody says, "Hey, this guy down the road needs your help now,"
yeah,
that's the way I grew up. That's the way I'll always be. But because politics has become a game of mudslinging and trash talking and such bull crap. How can a guy that's not perfect, they want the perfect person out there. There is not a perfect person. I'm telling you, if you find him, I'll find a hole in him, and I got a lot of holes, but giving up or not being the kind of, I want to be the friend that you call when you need somebody.
yeah. No, I think you bring that to the table. Okay. My last final question. What do you wish from the youth to bring to the table in the next 5-10 years? And I'm asking this not of you asking me or Brett. We're too old for it now. What do you ask the youth to bring to the table in about 10, 20 years?
So one of the things that I would like is I heard this a long time ago or not all that long ago, I guess about 4 or 5 years ago, that today most of our youth are getting all of their news from the phone.
I would assume that's true, yeah.
And I would hope that things turn around and that you don't trust, because it comes to trust. You don't trust everything you see on the phone or the internet. It's just there's an old saying, don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see. Yep.
I haven't heard it much, but yeah.
You've heard me say it though.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. And so I want people to get out there and find out for themselves. Don't take somebody's word for it. Go out there and learn for yourself. Try, if you think you can do a better job, jump with both feet in there and see. Because you know what? I jumped a bunch of different times, and you never went without shoes. You never went without food. The light stayed on 90% of the time, 95.
Yeah. Dad, you don't have to. I'm not asking you to respond to this. I'm closing it out. Okay. You're an inspiration. You're an inspiration to all those around me. For your faults, good or bad, you were an amazing dad, and I'm happy. I would never want a different dad. Okay. My friends wish they had dads that they think I am closer to you than ever, and they think, we're the closest dad and son that there could be, and I'm happy for that, only because I wish they had that with their dad, apparently. Okay. I wish that upon them. I thank you so much, not only for your opinions, but your wisdom. I was just telling you about, side note for those listening, hilarious. My son flushed a fucking apple core down our damn drain or our toilet, and I had to figure it out. And I thought, what would Eddie Lake do? I didn't want to call him because I'm his son and ignorant and hard-headed, but I went and bought a drain snake, and I got it figured out. But, a lot of kids, they'll call a plumber, or they'll, call a lot of people. my dad always taught me, you get the goddamn job done and get it done as fast as you can. Sometimes hard is not always smooth, but I'll figure it out. Okay. I'm ranting about my dad because he's my foundation for life. He was half of how I was raised, and I know 90% of people when they see the pictures I post on Instagram, they think, "Holy fuck, I thought that was Ben." So, thank everybody for listening. I thank you, Dad, for coming on here. Is there any other final closing comments?
Well, so I want to apologize to all your listeners on the end of part one. We may or may not have had too many warm or cold toddies. And I just want to say that also, I want to tell your friends, all your friends, I love them as much as I love you. And if they need me ever, all I am is a phone call away and they know where I live. My dad was that way for my friends. My dad was always there for my friends. And, um, you know, not a day goes by that whenever I talk to one of my friends, they don't say, "How's your dad? How's your dad?" So, I want to be the kind of dad that I'm always going to be there for my kids, always. But I'm always there for my kids' friends, every one of them. And the last thing I want to say is that it's cool that I was brought on this podcast because my son thought so much about me. But I also want to say that I can't tell you how much or how proud I am of him and his wife and the life they're making together. So, with that, I'm just going to end it. But there might be a part 3 sometime, but it's going to be called probably the things that we wish we could have changed. And you can wish in one hand and do something else in the other, and it'll always come up that way. But I can promise you this, that looking back, I've had a wonderful, wonderful life. And I've got 3 wonderful kids, 3 wonderful, 2 daughter-in-laws and a son-in-law, and a bunch of grandkids that I love to death. So that's a blessing. That's my blessing. That's how lucky I am.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you very much.
To finish it out, I want to play a song because it's my favorite one right now. I don't know if it's going to get kicked or whatever, but we'll see. Yeah, here we go. Okay. This is Sturgill Simpson singing All the Gold in California. If you're dreaming about California, and no matter at all where you play, California. Thank you guys for listening, okay? We appreciate it. I really love this session. Okay, so take care. I believe. Take care, guys. So, your dream. Guys, I gotta go. Okay? Or we're gonna get sued. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye. Hey guys, if you're looking at getting a new car, I got just the person to go to. You got Jacob Cahill out of Rusty Drewing Toyota. He's located up in Jefferson City, Missouri at 2105 Christie Drive. You can even contact him by his phone number, 573-535-5656, extension 542, or you can even email him at Jay Cahill at drewingauto.com. He's a sales consultant there. He offers a fun, low-pressure car buying experience. A lot of us, when we're getting our new cars, it can be daunting running around to those places. Jacob is from my hometown. Outstanding sales service, as well as he's going to get you that car that you need, not just something he's trying to get off the lot. Hit him up. Get yourself a nice new car or used. Hey guys, I want to take a break out to tell you all about a little business close to me called Action Automotive, located at 128 April Drive in St. Robert, which is local to me and right near Fort Leonard Wood, okay, for all your car needs, especially with those military folks, but even the ones around St. Robert. You need a good car, you need some work on it. These are your folks to go to. They do everything from oil changes to engine and transmission swaps. Okay, get the oil change, get whatever you need done. They're your people to go to. Evan and Caitlin York are the owners. They're actually from my town. They started this business. They're two people out there just making it. So their hours are Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. Be sure to check them out.